Imagine a spiritual retreat that, doesn't just vaguely promise you inner peace, but instead hands you a literal spreadsheet.
Right, an actual audit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
An audit claiming an 80% success rate in turning regular everyday human beings into literal celestials.
It's a bold claim, to say the least.
It really is. So, welcome to you, the learner. We know you're the kind of listener who loves to really dig into a subject. You crave those profound aha moments, but you also want to skip the overwhelming noise and just get straight to the core insights.
And you are definitely in the perfect place for that today.
Because today, we are looking at a text that does exactly that. We are jumping into a deep dive on some pretty radical source material.
Yeah, the document we're analyzing today offers one of the most unapologetic, unvarnished frameworks you will likely ever encounter.
Oh, absolutely.
It's an English translation of a philosophical essay. It's titled, "Observe the Human Natures of the World and Understand the Way to Heaven."
Catchy title.
Right. It was written by an author named Swifeng, and it's dated November 14th, 2020. And, well, it attempts to synthesize and, frankly, completely dismantle almost every major human institution.
Yeah, and before we really get into the weeds here, I do want to set some ground rules. Because this text takes a massive sledgehammer to both capitalism and socialism.
And it targets almost every major world religion, too.
Right, along with tons of major historical figures. So our job today isn't to validate or endorse any of these claims. We are strictly acting as your guides.
Exactly. We're not taking sides on any of the political or religious viewpoints presented here.
No, not at all. Our mission is simply to map out this radically different worldview so you can see the architecture of these ideas for yourself.
Right. We're treating this as an exploration because the value of an exercise like this, it lies in stepping outside of our default paradigms.
Totally.
When an author claims to have figured out the exact mechanics of how one reaches heaven and then contrasts that with the supposed flaws of all modern civilization, it forces us to critically examine our own lives.
Even if we don't necessarily align with the text's ultimate conclusions.
Exactly. It makes you look at the metrics you use to measure your own success.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the author starts with a claim that absolutely demands our attention.
He really comes out swinging.
He does. He reflects on spending 20 years traveling what he calls the path of Lifechanyuan, which he translates as the way of the greatest creator.
And he argues this is the simplest, most direct route to heaven.
Right. But he doesn't just offer philosophical platitudes here. He provides specific metrics. He claims that over 70 people have become, quote, Chanyuan celestials on this path.
And the way he breaks these numbers down is, well, it's highly unusual for a spiritual text. He breaks them down into specific family units.
Yeah, he cites one family of 10 where 8 members became celestials.
Which is an 80% success rate.
Right, and a family of 5 where all 5 achieved this state, and another family of 3 where all 3 succeeded.
He's presenting these statistics as direct, undeniable evidence that his framework functions in the real world.
And I'll be honest, I struggle with this at first. Because when I think of reaching a celestial state, I usually picture, monks meditating in total isolation.
Or someone practically transcending physical reality.
Right, exactly. But when he explains what becoming a celestial actually looks like for these families, he describes something remarkably mundane.
How so?
Well, he points out that the elders in these families are peacefully enjoying their twilight years, and the children are growing up healthy and outstanding.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, and looking at an ordinary, healthy family just doesn't immediately scream spiritual enlightenment to me. I mean, it's like looking at the success rates of a radical new wellness retreat.
Yeah.
And the proof is just that they have good cholesterol.
That's a great analogy. But that tension you're feeling, that's the exact pivot the author is making here.
Really?
Yeah, he's taking this ethereal, abstract concept of heaven and anchoring it to the most grounded, worldly results imaginable.
Oh, interesting.
The argument here is that true spiritual alignment isn't about escaping reality or achieving some sort of mystical levitation.
Right, it's not about magic.
No, it's about mastering human existence to the point where the everyday suffering, the chaotic family dynamics, the generational trauma that plague most households, all of that is entirely neutralized.
So he's essentially saying the ultimate proof of spiritual success isn't supernatural. It's supreme functional harmony.
Exactly. It's the absence of systemic friction within a household. By providing this grounded evidence, the text posits that heaven can be quantified.
Quantified through the tranquility of a human lifespan.
Right. If the elders are at peace and the children are thriving, the spiritual mechanics of that family unit are operating flawlessly. It strips away all the mysticism.
And replaces it with tangible human well-being. But if the baseline for heaven is a harmonious family, the text has a pretty brutal assessment of how the rest of the world operates.
No, it's scathing.
Yeah, because if those 70 people are the success stories, the author views basically everyone else as a massive failure.
He claims to have spent these 2 decades seeing through the fundamental shortcomings of both Eastern and Western civilizations.
Right, he looks at capitalism and socialism and just dismisses both of them. He says they are deeply flawed systems built on confusion.
What's fascinating here is how systematically the author strips away all traditional forms of worldly and historical authority to just level the playing field.
He spares absolutely no one.
He really doesn't. He writes that even the great revered sages, and he explicitly lists Jesus, Shakyamuni, Lao Tzu, and Muhammad, he says they all had limitations and helplessness.
He systematically removes the pedestal from beneath every major historical pillar of wisdom. And he doesn't spare modern society either.
No, he lumps in the presidents of various countries, the brilliant philosophers, scientists, rich men, experts.
He categorizes all of them as living their lives in a profoundly muddle-headed way. And, I have to push back on this a little bit on behalf of anyone listening who operates in our current professional world.
Sure, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Because we are deeply conditioned by meritocracy. We tend to think that a highly educated CEO who built a massive company or a scientist unlocking quantum physics inherently possesses a deep understanding of reality.
We view them as the pinnacle of understanding.
Right, so to put them in the exact same bucket of muddle-headed confusion as someone completely uneducated, it feels incredibly bold. It's almost dismissive of human progress.
But the text specifically targets that exact assumption about meritocracy. The author observes a deep irony about human intellect.
The pit analogy, right?
Exactly. He notes that the more people like reasoning with others, the more they fall into a pit of one's own digging.
Wow.
The text argues that high-level intellectualizing, the complex economic systems, the intricate political debates, these aren't actually signs of understanding reality.
What are they then?
They're merely sophisticated forms of distraction. The intellect creates ego, and that ego demands that we complicate the world to prove our own intelligence.
So it's the trap of the intellect. When he talks about falling into that pit, it implies that the more you analyze the maze of modern life, the more trapped you become by the walls you just built.
Precisely. Your own reasoning becomes the shovel digging you deeper into the mud.
Right. A billionaire or a leading philosopher might have immense mastery over their specific artificially created domain, like the stock market or academic theory.
But the text argues they are completely blind to the foundational mechanics of the universe. They are just kings of their own small, confusing pits.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because he divides society into these incredibly vivid, harsh categories based on how people handle that confusion.
And his metaphors here are quite stark.
Very. On one side, you have the people who relentlessly pursue the extraordinary. He compares them to madmen standing in the wind, just shouting into the void.
It's a phenomenal image of pure, exhausting, chaotic ambition.
It really is.
These are the people obsessed with leaving a legacy, the ones working 100 hours a week, the artists destroying themselves for their craft.
But then you have the complete opposite end of the spectrum, right? The people who simply indulge in being ordinary.
And his metaphor for them is brutal.
So brutal. He says they're like pigs reared in a pigsty. They just passively consume what is put in front of them, completely unaware of anything beyond their immediate comfort.
And the key takeaway here is that neither state is the goal. The madman is burning alive with ambition, and the pig is just stagnant.
They're both missing the architecture of a meaningful life, which leads to what I think is probably the most profound quote in the entire essay.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, I want to read this directly because it applies so powerfully to anyone navigating a career or a creative pursuit today.
Go for it.
He writes, "The ordinary that has never been extraordinary is mediocre, and extraordinary that has not returned to the ordinary is impetuous."
I love this part so much. Wait, look at the precise wording he uses here, because the linguistic breakdown of this concept is just phenomenal.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Notice the contrast between impetuous and mediocre. He actually validates the ambition of the madman.
He's saying you can't just skip the struggle.
Exactly. If you simply stay safe your whole life, never taking a risk, never venturing into the storm to see what you are capable of, you haven't achieved peace.
You've only achieved mediocrity.
Right. You are just resting in the sty.
You have to go out and experience the chaos. You have to endure the extraordinary effort to actually understand the world.
Yeah.
It's like you have to earn your ordinary life.
But the real genius is the second half. Extraordinary that has not returned to the ordinary is impetuous. Think about the psychological toll of ambition.
It's heavy.
It is. If you achieve incredible wealth or knowledge, if you become the madman who actually conquered the wind, but you never learn how to turn that drive off, you are doomed.
You become agitated, restless. You're
Yeah.
constantly chasing the next high.
Exactly. To return to the ordinary means you have conquered the ego that drove your ambition in the first place. You can finally sit quietly and appreciate a simple sunset without needing to own the sun.
I love that. Surviving your own ambition is basically the ultimate flex here. And to survive it, you have to understand the larger rules of the game.
The plot of the world.
Right.
Huh.
The author argues that the macro plot of the world runs according to the Tao. And this Tao operates with total, chilling indifference to human desires.
It completely ignores the subjective will of presidents, the public, or even those sages we mentioned earlier.
This is where we need to address a specific, slightly technical concept he introduces, right?
Yes, the author talks about conditioned dharmas. In this philosophical context, a conditioned dharma refers to any phenomenon, action, or state that relies on external causes and conditions to exist.
Okay, so give me an example of that.
A political campaign, a stock market rally, a sudden burst of fame, these are all conditioned. Because they rely on shifting variables, they are inherently fragile.
So they can collapse at any moment.
Exactly. The text argues that all human efforts to control the grand narrative using these conditioned temporary tools are entirely in vain.
They're like bubbles trying to command the ocean. But he gives us a fantastic analogy to explain how we should actually operate if we can't control the ocean.
The weather analogy.
Yes, he talks about rain. He says that the truly enlightened masters aren't the ones praying to the sky to stop the rain.
Right, they aren't trying to change the conditioned dharmas.
No, they are simply the people who know the plot. They know it's going to rain tomorrow, and so they prepare by bringing an umbrella.
It is the ultimate practicality. Enlightenment isn't about altering destiny. It is about perfect alignment with reality.
It makes the concept of destiny feel less like some magical, mystical force and much more like practical weather forecasting.
You don't scream at the clouds like the madman in the wind. You adapt.
But what happens to the people who refuse to look at the forecast? Like the ones who don't understand the plot.
The psychological consequences are severe. Without understanding the Tao, without an ultimate goal or a frame of reference, human life becomes a series of blundering reactions.
You're just constantly caught in the storm.
Exactly. The author points out that without this baseline, your emotions are entirely tethered to external conditioned phenomena.
So when the sun comes out, people are temporarily happy.
And when the sun goes down, they feel utterly lost.
You become a victim of your own environment. A good day at work makes you feel brilliant, and a flat tire throws you into an existential crisis.
Because without an ultimate frame of reference, the approach of mortality, which is the ultimate setting sun, brings only sadness, fear, and helplessness.
But having an ultimate goal, knowing the plot, that provides a baseline of tranquility that a passing storm simply cannot disturb.
Right.
But, if the Tao operates with this total indifference to our worldly ambitions, it completely changes how the universe actually rewards us.
It really flips the script.
Which leads to a really harsh truth the author reveals about the cosmic balance mechanism. It's a radical system of fairness.
Extremely radical.
Yeah, it states that the ordinary and the poor are much more likely to become celestials, while the wealthy, the knowledgeable, and the highly capable find it incredibly difficult to achieve sublimation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at a strict cosmic zero-sum game.
Explain that.
Well, the author even pulls in a quote from Jesus to support this, citing the Beatitudes. Happy are you who are poor, happy are you who are weeping.
Right.
The text claims that 20 years of observing Lifechanyuan practitioners proved that those who achieved celestial status had known hunger, poverty, and tears. The people who were constantly full and entertained were actually blocked from progressing.
Let's really dig into the why of that, because it goes against literally everything modern culture teaches us. The analogy he uses is, a tiger cannot grow wings on its back.
It's a brilliant image. Let's look at the mechanics of spiritual attachment here. A tiger is an apex predator, right? It dominates its earthly domain.
Totally.
The author refers to this as securing the benefits of this shore. Wealth, power, status, these are heavy, dense, earthly things.
They weigh you down.
Yes. To maintain a billion-dollar empire or intense worldly power requires massive amounts of mental and physical energy. Your entire being is tethered to maintaining that reality.
You are physically and spiritually anchored to the ground. You have to constantly feed the empire.
Precisely. Now, the wings represent the spiritual sublimation of life, the ability to ascend to the other shore.
Right.
But wings cannot lift the sheer density of a tiger. You cannot hoard all the heavy gold of the earthly realm and still expect to float upward.
The universe's accounting system just simply doesn't allow one soul to monopolize the blessings of the earth and the happiness of heaven.
It's one or the other.
And I really want you, the listener, to weigh that concept against the hustle culture we are swimming in every single day.
Oh, hustle culture hates this idea.
It does, because we are constantly bombarded by messages telling us we absolutely can be tigers with wings. We are told to optimize our lives so we can have the massive wealth, the perfect body, the crushing dominance in our industry.
And that we can also be totally spiritually enlightened Zen masters who meditate for an hour every morning.
Yes, it's this promise that you can have it all.
But it's the ultimate modern delusion, according to this text. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how cosmic justice operates. The universe demands a trade-off.
You have to choose your shore. If you want the fangs and claws of worldly success, you forfeit the wings.
It's an incredibly heavy realization.
It is, which perfectly sets up the stark contrast the author presents near the end of the text. He outlines two distinct laws that govern existence.
Right, worldly laws and the law of the sublimation of life, spelled out with a capital L-I-F-E.
Right. By worldly laws, human society's laws, everyone is essentially right, because human law is subjective.
People justify their actions based on their own context, their own survival.
Their own pit they've dug.
Exactly. In the earthly court, everyone has a valid excuse.
But by the higher law, the law of the sublimation of life, everyone is wrong.
And that's a tough pill.
Yeah. When viewed from the macro perspective of the Tao, the grand mechanics of the universe, almost nothing we do down here makes any sense. The things we fight over, the wealth we hoard, the stress we carry, it's all completely misaligned.
So what does this all mean for how we try to better ourselves? If almost everything we do is wrong from a higher perspective, how do we evaluate the endless stream of advice we consume?
Well, the author tackles that directly by going after chicken soup for the soul.
He really does not hold back here.
No, he calls these feel-good platitudes the insight of elusive thinkers. And his metaphor here is brilliant. He doesn't just say this superficial self-help is useless. He says it acts exactly like alcohol.
It is a potent warning.
It is. He says you drink it, and it feels good for a moment. But if you drink too much of this chicken soup, you will become drunk, you will enter an elusive state.
And eventually, you will fall heavily back into the dust.
This raises an important question for anyone focused on personal development. We need to elevate how we view the media we consume.
Definitely. Are the books you read and the podcasts you listen to practicing spiritual endurance? Are they teaching you how to build a sturdy umbrella for the inevitable rain?
Or are they just a form of spiritual escapism? Because it's so tempting to just scroll through bite-sized positive quotes on social media.
It gives you a quick hit of dopamine.
Right. It acts as a numbing agent against the stress of the day.
Yeah.
But that intoxication leaves you completely unprepared for the actual storm.
When the real tragedy hits, a motivational quote isn't going to keep you dry.
Exactly. You just end up crashing back into the dust harder than before.
The author is demanding substance over comfort. The Lifechanyuan path, as he outlines it, requires acknowledging the harsh realities of the Tao
It requires abandoning the heavy wealth of the tiger.
and systematically stripping away the muddle-headed ego. It is not designed to make you feel warm and fuzzy. It is designed to wake you up so you don't fall.
And that brings us to the end of our journey through this incredibly dense, challenging framework. I want to sincerely thank you, the listener, for taking this deep dive with us.
It really takes a genuine curiosity to engage with this.
And a resilient intellect, too, to engage with a worldview that so aggressively deconstructs the systems we live in, the meritocracy we trust, and the metrics we use to measure a successful human life.
It demands that you step entirely outside of your comfort zone. Whether you interpret this text as a literal blueprint for spiritual salvation or simply a profound psychological critique of modern ambition, it forces a vital re-evaluation of what we are prioritizing.
It really does. And to bring all of this directly back to your reality, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
We began by talking about how much we love to optimize our lives, track our success, and strive to be the ultimate predators in our respective fields. But if this author is right, if the grand accounting system of the universe strictly forbids anyone from becoming a heavy, clumsy tiger with wings, then what is one worldly benefit, one earthly ambition you are tightly clinging to right now that might actually be the very thing keeping you grounded?
What is your heavy pair of useless wings?
Exactly. That is a question that will require a lot more than a spreadsheet to answer.
Absolutely.
Keep seeking those aha moments, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.